Okay. Someone out there is going, badass. Ooh, that's good. That's good shit. Stuff. Mango juice. Um, what's happening? I wanted to give you a tip I learned ages ago back in the camera store. Someone asked me a month or so ago about they bought a camera off some dude, and apparently he was a chain smoker, and the camera smelled like a pack of Marlboros, and how to get the smoke out of the camera. And there's a neat little trick for that, and it won't damage your camera, is get some cedar chips. And if you can't find chips, then get the chips, some shavings, and get the chips, and then shave them down, as small as you can. Not so small that are little dust particles, of course. Stick your camera in a Ziploc bag and put like a handful of cedar chips at the bottom, not where like the chips are going to get into anything on the camera. Seal it up. Leave it that way for a couple days, and your camera, your camera will obviously smell like cedar chips, but it draws the smoke out of your camera. Actually, I'll never buy a camera that smells like cigarette smoke, because the tar that actually gets in there and stuff, that's no good. So if you ever got a smoky camera, that's actually how you fix it. I want to talk about the philosophy of film gear, and this is, see, what people today get into is nitpicky nonsense. They're like, well, that's not always true. It's like, well, if something is generally true, then it's a truism, and a generalization that is generally true is a philosophically valid statement. And when it comes to fallacies, it is not a fallacy. It is a valid statement. So there are exceptions to everything. Obviously the case, but philosophies of film gear. Someone's always going to point me out an exception. So, I don't give a damn about that. I give a damn about the fact of whether something is generally true or not. See, ultimately, there are really four types of people in the world. There are sheep and wolves, brainless sheep, and there are wolves. And then there's another group of people, and those are pigs and eagles. Now, we all know what sheeps and wolves are, at least I think everybody does. The other group of people are pigs and eagles. I know I look more like a pig than an eagle. Now, what pigs do is they're always focused on every little detail, and they can't actually see themselves walking off of a cliff. And it's kind of like a person that's always looking down because they're like looking for somebody that dropped a stray dollar bill. They can never see the big picture of anything. It's good to actually have both of those people combined, because like Americans generally can see the big picture, and like Japanese people, I've got a Japanese bodysuit. I'm not insulting Japanese people. We know they're really detail-oriented. Same thing with Germans, okay? Nice precision stuff. That's a generalization, but it's still a truism. There's an ancient saying that, not an ancient saying, there's a saying that Americans invent it and the Japanese miniaturize it, and that's generally a very accurate statement. So pigs are always rooting around, looking at details, and eagles can see the big picture of everything. The big picture, as far as the generalization and getting to the point in the philosophy of film gear, is that the more you see it advertised, the more likely it is that it's a piece of shit. Poo. Sony and Sigma. No, they're not the only ones. Tamron does a lot of advertising, but Tamron's actually picked up their game big time. Tamron still is batting about 80% on crappy lenses, but the new lenses that they're coming out with are the tits. The Tamron 15-30 is just incredible. There's nothing that beats it. It blows the hell out of the 14-24 Nikkor. Got both of them, and named the 15-30 Tamron Lens of the Year for 2015, and it damn well deserves it. The Tamron 70-200 2.8 VC is an incredible lens. They're new prime lenses which have far superior build quality to Sigma, and in every way, shape, and form it's a superior lens. I mean, that lens is incredible. I got the 45mm back there in the back room. So the more it's advertised, the more likely it is to be a piece of crap. Now, people that love Sigma really hardcore, the only thing you have to do is tell them one thing. It's like, listen, here's a fact, and it's not hyperbole, it's accurate. Accurate within a percentage or two, okay? 15-year-old Sigma lens or older, there's only about 1% of those that are still working. And I'm not talking about firmware update issues. I'm just saying, 15 years or older, there's like 1% of those suckers still kicking, okay? Now, 15 years and older Nikkor lenses, I don't care if it's manual focus or autofocus, nearly 100% of those. Now, this is accepting rules where people abuse their lenses and drop them and all that crap, obviously. So we're talking about 1% with Sigma and 100% with Nikon. This is an undeniable fact. So it depends on what you want. It's like, well, I love my Sigma lens. I was like, that's sweet. You know what? Tell me how that Sigma lens is still working in about 5 years, if it's still working. This is an art form. If you love it, that's fine. What about instead of being a pig, how about being an eagle? It's like, well, I love my Sigma lens. Like, yeah, you know what? Like 100% of Sigma lenses that are 15 years and older, like, ain't working no more. What does that tell you? And like 100% of Nikkor lenses that are 15 years and older are still working. Oh God, well, as a pig, versus an eagle, the big picture. It's good to be a person that is actually both pig. Wouldn't that be kind of an interesting animal? Something that's half pig and half eagle. I know someone's going to make a comment about me looking like a fat pig, which is pretty accurate, but I'm both. I'm certainly more of an eagle. This is about mentality. Now, let's talk about some really awesome poo that you never hear about in magazines or mentioned on, these awful photography blogs and boards, where people, have their thumb up their butts. We won't mention who they are, like Diaper and Pee Review, places like that. Voigtlander. Oh my God! Incredible lens, 100% the same quality as Zeiss. It's just cheap as hell. The 58 millimeter. I mean, it'll just blow your balls off. The lenses are just the tits, especially the 58 millimeter, and the 28 millimeter, and the 40 as well. Incredible lenses, just silk, sex, and sugar. You hear about those anywhere? You hear them in magazines or? No, nope. Zeiss, most people obviously have heard of Zeiss, and, do you see them advertising? No. So the good stuff sells itself. Word of mouth is, there you go. Stuff that's not made anymore, I mentioned these old lenses that Nikon stopped making 20, 30 years ago or 15 years ago. I mean, you see people talking about that shit anywhere? No, why? Because it's not made anymore. And Nikon and nobody else is interested in advertising crap that they can't make a buck off of because they ain't making no more of them. We got new improved shit, and this is a new improved shit, and it's better than the old shit that we don't make anymore. It's like, no, it ain't, baby. They don't make them like they used to. There's a reason to buy that old crap. But I never heard of that lens. Yeah, because you're reading photography magazines, and someone that got into photography 5 years ago, and he's you can't find that old crap in the camera stores unless they got a good used department, and so it's not talked about. So that's the good old shit that I know about that I can actually help you on, because this is some really awesome shit, and it's cheap, and you probably never heard of it, but it's like something that you should buy because it's awesome and it's cheap. Like old speed lights, SB800s, the reason professional photographers collect those old SB800 speed lights, stuff like that. Fuji. Does Fuji have any serious advertising? Not really. I mean, it's a huge company. You see Fuji in any magazines or, obviously it's getting a huge following now, but, it's kind of like quality. It spreads by word of mouth. And so generally speaking, the point is the more something is pimped and the more it's talked about, the more likely it is it's a piece of crap. Because it can't stand on its own 2 feet. If something can't stand on its own 2 feet, people in the advertising department are like, pimp it! let's run a big ad in the magazines, and we're going to have some paid shills, some puppets, some corporate douchebags that will have our hand up their ass, and like puppets, like, oh, you got to buy this new piece of crap, and it's something like, get my point? Someone's going to go, you're generalizing, that's not always. Yeah, okay, it's not always true. It is generally true. It is generally accurate. Very, very large margin. That's the case. There's an exception to almost everything. But being an eagle instead of a pig, seeing the big picture, why the hell do they have paid shills and paid pimps and running advertising all over the damn place? Maybe their crap is not that good and they spend all their money instead of on research and development and perfecting their product. They spend all their money on advertising, trying to pimp their crap so that you'll buy it. It's an accurate statement. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later. Think about that. Sheep and wolves. And then pigs and eagles. Pigs, always notice something there, and eagles are big picture. Okay, bye.